Hello and welcome to another session of Alison Answers. Today I was going to talk about getting organised and cutting the chaos from your life, but with the coronavirus and everything that is happening, I thought it might be a little bit more apt to actually talk about how to work efficiently from home if you have to self-isolate. So I've been a virtual assistant now for 5 years. I work mostly from home in my own office. So I thought I'd share some tips and tricks today about how to work efficiently, because I know for a lot of people, if you're in a large environment and you're told by your employer that you have to work at home instead of from the office just to minimize the risks of spreading the virus, that it can be really difficult. And I know, I didn't always work by myself. I actually worked for a large corporation for about 10 years, and we had over 1,500 employees between different buildings in Luxembourg, and were in large open plan offices. So when I actually became self-employed and then was working by myself mostly all day long at home, it was really, really hard, and it was hard to be motivated. And so today I'm just going to go through some tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way, and I hope these help. Now, obviously, hopefully your employer, if you have been asked to work from home, will have supplied you with all necessary equipment and logins, and they have made sure that your computer is secure and that there are lots of procedures and systems in place for you to work from home. So this is just some tips, more along the lines of how you can work efficiently and to make sure that you don't feel isolated, because I think that is going to be the biggest risk, I'd say, for a lot of people when you have to totally change how you're working and where you're working from. So today I'm just going to go through five different tips that hopefully will help you. If you have any comments, please post them on this Facebook Live at the end, or you can private message me or send me an email, alison@virtually.uk, whatever it is that you want to do. So the 5 things that we're going to talk about today are planning, structure, isolation, mental health, and diet. So from the planning point of view, really is the big thing. And if you are now working from home and you haven't been before, I find for myself the best thing to do is to plan your week in advance. So, obviously you can't determine what day you will start from working from home, but say, for example, that next Monday that you're going to have to do that. What I would do on a Friday afternoon is I would plan out my week in advance. Now, I work as a virtual assistant. I have several steady clients, and I also do some non-virtual work, taking minutes at meetings and helping at events. And of course, those also might be cancelled now for the foreseeable future, to minimise risk. But for the virtual work, I know pretty much in advance what work I have to do for which client and approximately how long it's going to take me. So on a Friday afternoon, I'll plan my following week out. I can work out how many hours I actually physically will be in the office and what type of task I have to do for each client. And then I can allocate. Monday morning is, looking after the potato manufacturer. Monday afternoon is looking after the HR investigator, whatever it happens to be. And I have scheduled out for the week, what work I'm going to do when. And also to leave in buffer zones in that, because obviously, sometimes it takes you a lot longer to do something than you anticipated. And another very good technique that I was taught, and it's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. But there's that saying, eat the toad or eat the frog first thing in the morning. So the thing that you're actually dreading doing, you're best doing that first. And sometimes you often find actually the thing that you're really dreading doing, it doesn't take you that long, and it's not as hateful as you think it's going to be. So that's a good tip as well. Do that thing first and get it out of the way, and then the rest of your day will be a bit easier. So that is around planning. The second topic then we're going to talk about today is structure, which of course is linked to that as well. But if so you have your plan, what work you're doing for who. You might also actually find that when you're working from home and you're not in an office environment with lots of distractions, that you get much more work done than you would normally. That might be, your boss might be very surprised. by the time of the end of your self-isolation about how productive you've been. But from a structure point of view, I tend myself, I find it's a lot easier if you get up in the morning. And I'm an early bird, so this depends totally on your own working rhythm. And of course, if you're a paid employee, what the set core hours are for work, and if you're dealing with clients in different time zones and all the rest, and what your workload is. But for me, I'm an early bird, so I like to start early, and I like to have the computer on at 8 o'clock. So I can get up at 7 o'clock, I can get up at 7:45, whatever it is, I try to start work at 8 o'clock. And before I get up, I have my breakfast, I have a shower, and I get dressed. Because I find that if you just get up and you turn your computer on and you're still in your pajamas and you're kind of half eating your breakfast and half looking at your emails, actually you're not very productive at all, and you're not eating properly, and you feel a bit ick because you're still in your pajamas and you haven't had a shower, and you just don't really feel that productive. So that's my tip. Get up as if you were going out to work in a way, and get ready, and then turn your computer on when you're fully focused and you've had your cup of coffee and you can get stuck in. And what I tend to do is I tend to work in 45-minute slots, because I find that actually that your brain's supposed to only can focus on one thing for 45 minutes, then you get tired. So I try to do that, and then I'll get up and I'll have a cup of tea, or if I have the washing on, I'll go up and hang out the washing. Or you can be, you can be super efficient and you can be doing press-ups or star jumps or whatever it is you want to do in your free time to keep you active, and that really helps you. It helps you to focus as well. Some people will use the Pomodoro technique, which actually says that you should work in 25-minute slots, and that's more efficient. It's called the Pomodoro technique because it was developed by an Italian, and I didn't know this, but the Italians, they have lots of timers. Kitchen timers are actually shaped like tomatoes. Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato. That's just an added fact for you today. So structure, it's all about structure and what you're going to do throughout the day. And I would say the other very important thing to think about is not only what you're actually going to do during the day, but also what, to switch off. Now, as a self-employed people, anybody will know, and I see some other self-employed people on the call already today, it is very hard to switch off, especially if you work from home and your computer's there and you're connected to your phone all the time. It's very, very hard to actually just say, here comes 5 o'clock, I'm switching off. But if you are working from home, have that rule, stick by your normal working hours, and if 5 o'clock is, shutdown time, shut off your computer and work away from it. And if you can, and that totally depends on your working situation, and if you're at home with your spouse or kids or whoever happen to be with you, that you actually work in a separate room, that really, really helps as well. So my office is upstairs, so actually at the end of the day, I can physically walk away from the office. Mentally, it's not always so easy, but physically, I can close the door and lock the door, and that's it. So that's always a very important thing to think about. So we've talked about the planning, we've talked about structure. The third thing, which is very important, is communication and not feeling isolated. So with the whole coronavirus, I think a lot of people are anxious, and actually the whole idea that we have to self-isolate in itself creates anxiety, because as humans, we thrive on connection, we thrive on human contact. And for you to be told, okay, you have to go home and you have to, be by yourself at home, and maybe someone's going to come and deliver your groceries and leave them at the front door, and you're going to have any real human interaction, that's actually, it's very frightening. It's very frightening. So if you are part of a team who have been asked to work remotely at home, it's very important, if your employer already hasn't put it in place, that you actually have some kind of team communication throughout the day. I was at a very interesting talk a few weeks ago by a company called HR Locker, and the owner of that is based in Lahinch in County Clare, and he said actually all of their workers are remote, but they have a thing, they're a bit obsessed with rugby and rugby terminology, and they have a thing called the huddle every morning at 9 o'clock, where all the employees, they call in, so they dial in virtually, and they set their goals. Each of them set their goals for the day and what they hope to achieve, and they talk about any problems, and then they all have a bit of a chat, and they do that every day. And that way you're still creating that sort of team environment. You feel that you're supported, you know that other people are there And that's very, very important as well. And I actually have a friend who works in Microsoft, and she sent me a message earlier on that Microsoft have launched there's the Teams function within the Microsoft package if you have that, and they've actually made that free for anyone, for any company to use at this time, because they understand the importance of team collaboration. And with that, you can organize calls with each other, you can chat, you can email, you can do everything. It's a collaborative space. So that's Microsoft Teams. And I'll put the link for that in under the post as well, because that's very, very important. So having that sort of team environment and the fact that you can still communicate is very, very important. I'm part of a virtual team with 3 other virtual assistants working on a project together, and we actually use Slack, and we have different channels in the Slack, and we communicate throughout the day, and you can have notifications on or off as you prefer. And that way we're talking to each other. And then we also have a Zoom call where we actually, we have a Zoom call maybe every second week where we go through, okay, these are our goals, this is what we're going to do. And that's, we don't feel so isolated. And that's very, very important as well. So that was a little bit about communication. The 4th thing I'd like to talk about, which is a big thing as well for us all at this time, is mental health and exercise. Now, as I said, I'm a morning person. I go to swim camp very early in the morning, a few mornings in the week. And if I'm not swimming, I live very close to a park, and it takes me about 30 minutes to get around to the park. So either before work, at lunchtime, or after work, I try to go around the park and get some fresh air. And that's a very important thing to factor in as well. If you're working from home, because you might think, oh, I'm working from home, I don't have to travel, I'm going to save all that time traveling. But let me assure you, once you turn that computer on, you kind of get sucked in, and sometimes it's very hard to walk away. So if you can do your exercise, if you can actually structure your exercise and plan your exercise and say, okay, at lunchtime I'm going to go around the park, or I'm going to do my Pilates video, whatever it happens to be, plan that in as well. There's a really good Pilates teacher, Louise Humphreys, and she used to do, I think she still does actually, I forgot to look it up just before I came on, she used to do a Facebook Live Pilates session at Thursday at lunchtime. So you can still do things like that, and then in that way, if there's a group of you all doing your Pilates or your yoga, or some qigong out in the garden, that you actually still feel that you're part of a community. And the other thing, I suppose, that we don't know yet, that if you have to isolate, that maybe ideally, I suppose you're supposed to stay in your house, and you're not, you shouldn't be out walking around the public park and touching things. I don't know what the rules about that are. We haven't come that far yet in Northern Ireland. But if you don't have a green space out the back of your house, that at least, we're in such a privileged position now with YouTube and all these other things, and Facebook groups and Facebook Lives, that you can still be doing all this stuff, but in the comfort of your own home. We live in a virtual world now, which in situations like this with coronavirus, we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate we have all those resources at hand. So the other thing that the last thing I'd like to speak about is also very important, and that is diet. So, people will know me, I get very, very hungry. I'm one of those people who's grazing constantly, and actually diet when you work from home is very, very important, because, you could be in that awful position if you're asked to self-isolate for 2 weeks, that by the end of the 2 weeks you could have put on 2 stone, because you're constantly by your fridge, opening the door, seeing what there is. Now, I'm lucky because obviously my kitchen and fridge are downstairs, so it does take a bit of an effort to get down there, but that's just something to be careful and mindful of as well. And plan like the same way that you plan your workload, plan what you're going to eat in the week in advance, especially if you are not allowed out to get your groceries, that you think, okay, this is what I'm having. I lived in mainland Europe for a long time, and actually I think I got into that kind of habit of eating, what do they say, eating your breakfast like a king, your lunch like a prince, and your dinner like a pauper. And I would have my main meal at lunchtime, and especially days I'm swimming, I would try to have a bit extra protein as well. And it's all brain fuel. And at the moment we have to be so mindful about how our entire our entire health, our mental health, our physical health, the whole lot. And, you know, to build up your immune system as much as you can, so that you are eating healthy. You know, I am sort of a flexitarian and I'm mostly vegetarian, but like meat every now and again. And I was in Sweden last week and had some Swedish meatballs. So, you know, but it's about being careful and thinking about what you're putting into your body and keeping your immune system as strong as you can with the good food, with the exercise, and with having regular breaks as well. And I saw Eve Early, who's a coach, had posted up a good thing yesterday about having those sort of 10-minute breaks in the morning and the afternoon where actually you're not thinking, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting down and having a cup of tea or whatever it happens to be, and actually have a little bit of a break so you're not totally burnt out. So I hope the things that I discussed today are helpful to you if you have to self-isolate and work from home. Obviously, there are a lot of people here in Northern Ireland who are self-employed, who are working from home, and who, you know, we understand the challenges and the benefits that that brings. But the most important thing is obviously that you ask your employer, hopefully will be giving you good advice about all the systems and the procedures that they have put in place to make life as easy as they can for you. And that we all at the moment just think a little bit outside the box. I have a lot of clients who organise face-to-face trainings and workshops for people. And I know I've had several discussions this morning about how they're going to do that, if they're going to start creating a bit more online kind of courses for that. I'm part of the Belfast PA network, and we were planning an event at the end of April, and we decided actually not to hold that, and that we're going to have a Facebook. We're going to do something. We have a Facebook group, and we're going to have a Facebook Live, or we're going to have a watch party and invite all the members that we have. Our members are in that already. But that we think a little bit outside the box and think, okay, we can't do this physically. Let's just think of another way to do it. And actually, in a way, it's a good thing because it teaches us all how to use new tools, and it's sort of extreme business continuity planning. You know, really at its extreme. So if you have any questions about remote working or need any help using any tools like Zoom or Slack, I use Loom as well to make explainer videos. If you need any help with any of those things, please, as I said, just post underneath this Facebook Live. I'll share some useful guides I have written in the last few days. I have a blog as well about useful communication tools that I'll share. And as part of the VA Heroes Collaborative, if you want a workshop on a particular tool that you don't know how to use, and you think that might be even useful inside your place of employment later, please let us know, and we can organise that for you as well. So that's Alison Answers today. My next Alison Answers session will be on what was originally planned about getting organised. I'm launching a 3-day challenge in March. I'll do in time with spring cleaning and all the rest about how to get organised, which might be very, very apt also if actually you are at home working. It will help maybe to get your life and your business in order. So that's all for me today. And as I said, if you have any other questions, please drop me a line. Thank you. Stay safe. Bye-bye. Bye.